You didn't even know you were being tested, but something in your life just shifted, and deep down you felt it. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to make you pause, because something about you is not the same anymore. And this wasn't random. This was watched, measured, felt, and you passed. You've always felt different, not in a loud way, not in a way you could explain, but in the quiet moments you knew. You don't react like others. You don't chase like others. You don't break the same way others do. And for a long time, you thought something was wrong with you. But here's what you didn't realize. You were never being compared to them. You were being observed separately. There were moments when everything pushed you to react, to snap, to defend yourself, to prove your worth. And you didn't, even when it hurt. Even when silence felt heavier than speaking, you chose restraint. And that choice was not invisible. You thought no one noticed, that the disrespect, the delay, the confusion was just life being unfair. But this part matters. Those were not random situations. They were precise, designed to see how you move when no one is capping for you. You were tested in your patience. When things took longer than they should, you were tested in your emotions. When people misunderstood you, you were tested in your worth. When you were treated like an option, and still you didn't collapse. There were nights you almost broke, moments where you questioned everything, your value, your direction, your purpose, and yet you stayed, not perfectly, not without pain, but you didn't abandon yourself, and that changes everything. Because most people fail quietly. They give up in ways no one sees. They betray their own growth just to feel temporary relief. But you held the line, even when it made no sense. And this is where everything shifts. You started noticing something strange. Your reactions slowed down. Things that once triggered you no longer had the same effect. People expected you to respond, but you didn't. At least, not the way you used to. That wasn't weakness. That was evolution. You were becoming harder to disturb, more grounded, more aware, and you didn't even announce it. But here's the deeper truth. The test wasn't about others. It was about you. Could you stay aligned when everything around you tried to pull you out? Could you remain calm when chaos invited you in? Could you trust yourself when nothing outside confirmed it? And you did, quietly, without validation, without applause. And because of that, something unlocked. You may not see it fully yet, but something has shifted in your favor. Doors that once resisted you are starting to loosen. Energy around you is reorganizing. People are responding differently, even if they don't understand why. And this part matters. They can feel it. They can sense that something about you is no longer easy to access, no longer easy to shake, no longer easy to control. That's why some people pulled away. That's why others became confused. Because the version of you they were used to doesn't exist anymore. You didn't just grow, you transformed in silence. And silence is powerful, because it doesn't need approval. But here's what you didn't realize. While you thought you were losing, you were actually being positioned. Every delay was alignment. Every rejection was protection. Every moment you held yourself together was preparation. You weren't being ignored. You were being refined, shaped in a way that only happens when no one is watching. And now you're entering a different phase. Not louder, not chaotic, but clearer. Things will start making sense. Connections will feel intentional. Opportunities will feel aligned. Not forced, not chased, because you're no longer operating from who you were. You're moving from who you've become. And that version of you doesn't beg, doesn't prove, doesn't chase noise. It moves with quiet certainty. And that's rare. This is why the test had to be hidden. Because if you knew, you might have performed. You might have acted differently. But this way, it was real, unfiltered, authentic. And what you showed was enough, more than enough. You showed restraint when reaction was easier. You showed patience when quitting felt justified. You showed strength when no one would have blamed you for breaking. And that's what sets you apart. So now things will begin to respond to you differently. Not because you're asking, but because you're asking, but because you're aligned. And this is where everything changes again. You'll notice a new kind of peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you are. Not in a flawless way, but in a grounded, unshaken way. You'll start choosing differently, speaking less, observing more, moving with intention. And people will feel that, even if they can't explain it, because you passed something most people don't even realize they're in. A test of character, a test of patience, a test of identity. And you didn't just survive it, you became someone new through it. So if something feels different right now, if life feels quieter, if your reactions feel slower, if your presence feels heavier, that's not random, that's confirmation. You crossed a line, not backwards but forward. And from here, things don't go back to how they were. They move according to who you are now, and that version of you is no longer being tested, it's being trusted. You stayed strong in silence when no one was watching, and that changed something inside you. If you felt this shift, comment, "I passed unseen," so your energy is witnessed. And if this message found you at the right time, stay connected with Born into Light for more. And that changes the weight of everything around you. Because now, you're not being watched to see if you'll break. You're being watched to see what you'll build. Feel that shift. It's subtle, but it's real. The pressure you once felt, it's different now. Not heavy in the same way, more focused, more intentional. And here's what most people miss. Passing the test wasn't the reward, it was the access. Access to a version of life that only opens when you stop reacting from old wounds, when you stop chasing validation, when you stop explaining your worth to people who were never meant to understand it. And now, you're standing at the edge of that access. You can feel it in your decisions, in your silence, in the way you walk away from things you once would have fought for. But this part matters. This is where many people slip. Because the next phase doesn't look exciting at first. It looks quiet, almost too calm, and your mind will try to question it. Is something missing? Why is everything so still? Did I lose something? No, you didn't lose anything. You outgrew chaos, and chaos was loud. So peace feels unfamiliar. But here's where everything deepens. This peace is not empty. It's powerful. It's the kind of space where clarity begins to speak. And if you listen closely, you'll notice something. You're no longer pulled in every direction. You're choosing deliberately. That's new. That's different. And that's exactly why this phase matters. Because now every move you make carries weight, not pressure, precision. And this is where your life starts responding faster. Not because things are rushing, but because resistance is gone. You're not forcing doors anymore. You're recognizing the right ones. And here's what you didn't expect. Some things will come back around. People, opportunities, situations. But they won't feel the same, because you're not the same. And this is the real test after the test. Can you stay who you became when familiar things return? Because they will, not to pull you back, but to reveal how far you've come. And you'll notice it instantly. What once felt important now feels distant. What once felt urgent now feels unnecessary. And that realization, it won't be loud, but it will be final. You won't need closure. You won't need explanations. You'll just move. And that kind of movement is rare. But here's where it intensifies. The more you honor this version of yourself, the more life begins to trust you with more. Not more noise, more responsibility, more alignment, more moments that require your awareness. Because now, you're not reacting to life, you're directing it, and that's a different level. You'll start seeing patterns quicker, reading people clearer, feeling energy before it even speaks. And this part matters. You won't need to prove that you see it. You'll just act accordingly, quietly. Because you've learned something most never do. Not everything deserves your reaction. And not everything deserves your presence. That awareness protects you. But it also elevates you. And now your circle begins to shift, not by force, by frequency. Some people will drift, some will try to reconnect, some will watch from a distance. Met them, because you're no longer here to maintain old versions of yourself just to keep others comfortable. And that realization, it frees you. In a way that's hard to explain. You'll feel lighter, but also stronger. And this is where everything locks in. You'll stop questioning your path, even if you don't see the full picture, because now you trust the direction more than the details. And that trust, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from everything you endured without losing yourself. That's why this moment feels different. You're not hoping anymore, you're knowing. And knowing doesn't need noise. It doesn't need confirmation. It just moves. So when things start aligning faster, when the right situations find you, when clarity replaces confusion, don't be surprised. This was always the other side of the test. Not a reward, a recognition that you're ready to hold more, ready to move differently, ready to exist without shrinking just to fit into spaces you've already outgrown. And here's the final shift. You'll stop waiting for permission. Because deep down you already know. You passed something invisible, but life saw it. And now, life is responding to who you chose to become. And that response, it won't always be obvious. At least not at first. Because now, things don't need to be loud to be real. They just need to be aligned. And you'll feel it. In the way certain paths open without resistance. In the way confusion no longer lingers like it used to. In the way your mind finally quiets down. But here's what you didn't expect. With this clarity comes responsibility. Because now you see. And once you see, you can't go back to pretending. That's the real shift. Not what's happening around you, but what you can no longer ignore within you. And this part matters. There will be moments where the old version of you whispers. Softly, familiar, tempting. Just this once, go back for a second. It wasn't that bad, but you'll catch it. Faster than before, cleaner than before. Because now you recognize the cost. And that awareness, it will save you. Over and over again. This is where your power stabilizes. Not in big decisions, but in small ones. Daily ones. Quiet ones. The way you respond, the way you walk away, the way you choose peace even when chaos tries to pull you back. And here's where everything tightens. You're no longer proving growth. You're living it. There's no announcement, no explanation, no need to be understood. And that silence, it becomes your protection. Because not everyone is meant to understand this level of change, and that's okay. You're not here to translate your journey. You're here to walk it. But listen closely. This next phase, it asks for something deeper. Consistency, not perfection. Consistency. Because now that you've crossed this line, life will match your discipline, not your emotions. Some days will feel easy, some won't. But the difference now is that you don't collapse on hard days. You adjust, you breathe, you keep moving, and that's rare. But here's the deeper truth. This is where your life starts compounding. Every aligned decision builds on the next. Every moment of restraint strengthens your foundation. And slowly, without noise, without pressure, everything begins to stack in your favor. And this part matters. You won't always notice it immediately. Because real change doesn't shout. It settles, it roots. It builds quietly until one day you look around and realize you're no longer in the same life. Not because you escaped, but because you evolved. And that realization, it will hit you unexpectedly. In a random moment, in a quiet breath, in the middle of doing nothing, you'll feel it. I'm not who I used to be. And this time, it won't feel uncertain. It will feel sunturn. It will feel final. But here's where it reaches its peak. With this new version of you comes a new standard. And you will not be able to lower it anymore. Not for comfort, not for familiarity, not for anyone. Because you felt what alignment feels like now. And once you feel that, everything else feels off. forced, heavy, unnatural. So you'll choose differently, without guilt, without hesitation, and people will notice. Some will respect it, some will question it, some will feel distant from it. Let them, because this isn't about them anymore. This is about the life that's finally matching you. And here's the final layer. You didn't just pass a test. You became someone who no longer needs one. Not because life won't challenge you again, but because now you meet every challenge as the version of yourself that already knows how to stand. No panic, no rush, no need to prove anything. Just presence. And that presence is unshakable. So when the next moment comes, and it won't feel like a test. It will feel like recognition. Recognition of everything you held together when no one saw. Recognition of every moment you chose growth over comfort. Recognition of the version of you that refused to break, even in silence. And this time, you won't question it. You'll accept it. Because now you understand something deeply. You were never being tested to fail. You were being prepared to become. And now there's no more delay between who you are and how you move. Feel that. That gap, it's gone. You're not hesitating the same way. Not overthinking every step. Not shrinking before you even begin. And this is where it sharpens. Your decisions, they carry a different energy now. Not rushed, not forced, certain. Even when they're quiet. Even when no one else understands them. Because now, you're not asking the world what to do. You're listening inward. And here's what you didn't realize. That voice inside you, it got stronger during the test. Every time you chose yourself, it grew. Every time you stayed grounded, it stabilized. And now, it leads. But this part matters. There will be moments where things accelerate quickly, faster than expected. Opportunities, shifts, decisions. And your instinct might be to slow down, out of old habit. Don't. This speed is not chaos. It's alignment catching up. Everything that was delayed is now moving, and you're ready for it, even if it feels unfamiliar. Because here's the deeper truth, you've already done the hardest part. You became someone who doesn't fold under pressure. So now, movement doesn't break you, it reveals you, and this is where everything intensifies. You'll start to notice how little you tolerate now, not out of ego, out of clarity. What once drained you, you release faster. What once confused you, you see through instantly. And this part matters. You don't explain your distance anymore. You honor it. Because you finally understand your peace is not negotiable, and that realization, it will change every connection in your life. Some will rise with you, some will fall away. Not because you pushed them, but because you stopped lowering yourself to keep them. And that takes strength. A different kind of strength. The kind no one applauds. But you feel it, in your chest, in your stillness. And here's where it deepens even more. You're no longer attached to outcomes. You move, you act, you choose, but you don't cling. Because now you trust something greater, not blindly, not emotionally, but through experience. You've seen what happens when you stay aligned. Things work in ways you couldn't have planned. And this is where the final shift locks in. You stop trying to control everything. Not because you gave up, but because you leveled up. Control is replaced with trust. Force is replaced with flow. And flow doesn't mean passive. It means precise. It means you move when it's time to move. And you stay still when it's time to wait. No panic in either. That balance is rare. But here's the intensity building. With this level of awareness comes separation. You'll see things others don't. Patterns, intentions, energy shifts, and sometimes that will feel isolating. But don't mistake it, you're not alone. You're just no longer distracted. And that clarity, it will guide you into spaces that match you. Not immediately, but inevitably, because now you can't settle, not without feeling it instantly. And that feeling, it won't let you stay where you don't belong. So you move. again and again, closer and closer to what actually aligns. And this is where everything reaches its highest point. You realize there was never a moment you were lost. Even in confusion, you were being guided. Even in silence, you were being shaped. Even in pain, you were being positioned. And now you can see it clearly, fully. Nothing was wasted, not a single moment. And that realization, it gives you something powerful. Peace, not temporary, not fragile, stable. The kind of peace that doesn't break under pressure. The kind of peace that doesn't disappear when things get uncertain. The kind of peace that stays because you do. And now there's nothing left to prove. Nothing left to chase. Nothing left to question. Only one thing remains: to continue, not as who you were, but as who you became, when no one was watching. And that's the part that makes this irreversible. Because what you became in private can't be undone in public. Not anymore. You didn't build this version of yourself for attention. You built it in silence, under pressure, without reassurance, and that's why it holds. But here's what you didn't fully see. Now you're visible in a different way. Not loud, not obvious, but undeniable. People feel it, even if they don't understand it. The way you pause before reacting. The way you don't chase conversations. The way you walk away without looking back. And this part matters. You're no longer trying to be seen. And that's exactly why you are. Because there's no performance left. No mask to maintain. No version of you that's trying to fit. Just truth. And truth, it carries weight. Now listen carefully. This next phase, it demands even deeper honesty. Not with others, with yourself. Because now you can't lie to yourself anymore. Not about what you feel, not about what you see, not about what you know is no longer right for you. And that level of honesty, it will cut things out of your life quickly. Not violently, but cleanly. You'll feel it. A sudden clarity, a quiet knowing. This doesn't belong anymore, and you won't fight it, because you trust it now. But here's where it intensifies again. You'll also be pulled toward things. New paths, new ideas, new directions that don't fully make sense yet. And this part matters. You won't need full understanding to move. Just enough alignment. That's new. Before you needed certainty. Now you move with clarity. And clarity doesn't explain everything. It just shows you where to step next. And step by step, you'll notice something building. Momentum, not forced, not rushed, natural, because you're no longer working against yourself. And that changes everything. But here's the deeper layer. With momentum comes expansion. And expansion will test your capacity. Not your worth, your capacity. Can you hold more without shrinking? Can you receive more without questioning it? Can you step into more without pulling yourself back? Because this is where many people hesitate. Not because they can't have more, but because they're not used to it. But you've already done the internal work. So now, when more comes, you don't flinch. You accept it. Calmly. And that calm acceptance, it multiplies everything. This is where life starts opening faster. Doors you didn't knock on. Opportunities you didn't chase. Moments that feel almost too aligned. And here's what you need to understand. This isn't luck. This is response. A response to the version of you that refused to break earlier. And now, life is meeting you there. But stay aware, because not everything that returns is meant to stay. Some things will reappear, just to see if you're still the same. Old patterns, old people, old versions of comfort. And this part matters. You won't need to fight them. You'll just recognize them. And recognition is enough, because now you don't entertain what you've outgrown. Not even for a moment. And that decision, it protects everything you've built. But here's where it reaches its final depth. You'll realize you're no longer becoming. You are. Fully. No more waiting. No more preparing. No more almost there. You're here. And that presence, it changes how everything interacts with you. You don't chase timing. You don't question delays. You don't fear what's next. Because now you understand something most never reach. You were never behind. You were being built. And now that you're built, you don't need to rush into anything. You move when it's right. You speak when it matters. You act when it aligns. Nothing wasted, nothing forced, just precision. And that precision, it's what makes your next steps powerful. So from here, everything becomes intentional. Not heavy, not overwhelming, clear. And that clarity, it's not going anywhere. Because you earned it in silence, in pressure, in moments no one else saw. And now you carry it everywhere, unshaken, unmoved, unshaken, unmoved. Unapologetically you. And that is where the final layer reveals itself. Because now there's nothing left to hide behind. No old identity to return to. No version of you that tolerates less just to feel included. That door is closed, quietly, completely. And here's what you didn't expect. There's a moment right here where everything slows down. Not because you're stuck, because you've arrived. Feel that. No rush, no pressure, no noise pulling at you. Just awareness. And this part matters. Most people never reach this point. They keep chasing, keep reacting, keep searching for something outside to tell them who they are. But you stepped out of that cycle, and now you stand in something different. Stillness, not empty, not passive, powerful. Because stillness means nothing controls you anymore. Not emotions, not people, not outcomes. And that level of control, it's internal. It's yours. But here's where it deepens one last time. From this place, you don't just live life. You shape it through what you allow, through what you ignore, through what you ignore, through what you choose to give your energy to. And energy is everything now. You feel it instantly. What drains you, what aligns with you, what tries to distract you. And this part matters. You no longer second-guess those feelings. You trust them because they've proven themselves over and over again. And now, your life becomes cleaner, not easier. Cleaner, less confusion, not easier. Cleaner, less confusion, less noise, less wasted time on things that were never meant for you. And that clarity, it sharpens your path. So every step forward feels lighter, but stronger. And here's where the intensity rises. You'll start to notice something undeniable. You don't seek approval anymore. Not silently, not subconsciously, not at all. And that freedom, it changes how you exist. You speak differently, move differently, choose differently. Because now you're not performing for anyone. You're aligned with yourself. And alignment doesn't bend. Not for comfort, not for attention, not for temporary connections. It stays true, and that truth, it attracts what matches it, naturally, without force. But listen closely, this is the moment everything locks in. You stop waiting for life to confirm you, because now you confirm yourself. Every decision, every boundary, every step forward. No hesitation, that's the shift. And from this point on, there's no going back to uncertainty. Because even when things are unclear, you are not. Even when the path isn't fully visible, your direction is. And that difference is everything. So when new challenges come, and they will, you won't see them as tests anymore. You'll see them as opportunities to express who you've become. And that expression, it won't be forced. It will be natural, effortless. Because this is who you are now. Not someone trying to grow, someone who grew, fully, completely, and finally without needing anyone to notice it. Because the truth is, the moment you stopped needing to be seen was the moment you became undeniable. And once something becomes undeniable, it no longer needs to announce itself. It simply is. And that's you now, not trying, not proving, not reaching. Existing with certainty. But here's what most people don't understand. When you become undeniable, you also become untouchable in a different way. Not physically, energetically. Things that used to reach you can't reach you the same anymore. Negativity, doubt, external pressure, it all hits and falls away because there's nothing in you that agrees with it anymore. And this part matters. That agreement used to be your vulnerability. The moments you questioned yourself, the moments you almost gave up, the moments you almost believed you weren't enough. That's where things used to enter. But not now. Now there's no opening. And that changes everything, because when nothing external can shake you, life starts building on you. Not around you, on you. Your presence becomes the foundation. And here's where it intensifies. People will start to feel that stability. Some will feel safe around you. Some will feel exposed around you, because your clarity reflects truth back to them. And not everyone is ready for that. So don't be surprised if your presence alone starts shifting rooms, without you saying anything, without you doing anything. That's alignment at its highest level. But listen carefully, this level comes with responsibility, not to others, to yourself. Because now, every time you lower your standard, you'll feel it instantly. There's no more unconscious slipping. You'll know immediately. And this part matters. That feeling isn't punishment, it's guidance. A signal that says this is not you anymore, and you'll adjust quickly, cleanly. Because now you respect yourself too much to stay out of alignment. And that respect, it becomes your protection. No force needed, no defense required, just awareness. And awareness is power. But here's where it reaches its deepest point. You'll realize something quietly. You're no longer seeking purpose. You're living it, not as a title, not as something you explain, but as something you embody. In how you think, in how you move, in how you choose. Every moment. And this part matters. Purpose isn't loud, it's consistent. It shows up even when no one is watching. It stays even when things get hard. It guides even when the path isn't clear. And now that's you. So from here, life doesn't need to test you again in the same way, because you've already shown who you are under pressure. Now, life reveals what happens when that version of you keeps going, and that's where everything expands. Not suddenly, not chaotically, but steadily, powerfully, because nothing built on truth collapses. And you're built on truth now, so whatever comes next won't break you. It will meet you at your level, and your level is no longer something temporary. It's who you are, permanently. And that's the quiet power no one can take from you, because it was never given to you. You became it, and now there's nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove, only something to live, quietly, fully, honestly, to live, quietly, fully, honestly. And this is the final truth. You were never behind. You were becoming ready. Ready to stand without fear. Ready to move without doubt. Ready to exist without shrinking. And now, you don't wait for life anymore. You meet it, calm, clear, unshaken. Because the version of you that once questioned everything is gone. And what remains is someone who knows who they are, knows what they deserve, knows when to walk and when to stay. No noise, no confusion, just truth. And that truth will carry you exactly where you're meant to be. If this message found you, it wasn't random. You've already changed more than you realize. So if you're ready to keep moving forward like this, subscribe and stay aligned with what's meant for you.